Ferrari. What are you thinking? So it turns out that Carlos Sainz may not be in a good place with Ferrari. In fact, Ferrari could be considering giving him the boot. Why? That's why I've come out of semi-retirement right now to talk about this topic, because this is completely and utterly ridiculous. So it all stems from a publication in the Spanish newspaper El Nacional. I apologise if I butchered the pronunciation to any of my Spanish viewers out there, because according to them, Ferrari are sick and tired of Carlos Sainz's antics, and really? This is just what the Italian and German journalists actually do sometimes. You hear from Automotor and Sport, you hear from Ragazza dello Sport or something like that. But, I mean, we heard about this from Vedrik Vasseur not too long ago, about what's going on in there. They claim to have inside sources and stuff like that. This does not seem like something that makes any sense whatsoever. Supposedly, Maranello says that the driver is not performing as expected. Well, what were they expecting with Carlos Sainz here? Carlos Sainz was hired to be the second driver to the golden boy, Charles Leclerc. In my opinion, Carlos Sainz is doing a lot better than was expected. Not worse. Yes, he's not the best driver in Formula 1 out there, but I like him. As a McLaren fan, he helped bring that team out of the doldrums, at least temporarily, and gave them a P3 place in the Constructors in 2020. Not to mention, hearing him saying the word engine just gives me life. Go and find some clips, you'll know what I mean. It's just absolutely wholesome. Yes, of course, I understand that Ferrari is trying to find explanations as to why their car is not as good as it should be, because the SF75 from last year was clearly the quickest car, albeit very, very fragile. They've now tried to address some of the issues regarding reliability and trying to sort it out so it's a more complete package, but they've now actually made it worse. And now it's not only unreliable, it's slower. And now it seems like the gloves are off and everyone in Italy is trying to find excuses as to why everything is going wrong. The whole point of Carlos Sainz going to Ferrari was, of course, it's Ferrari. You don't turn that down. Any motor racing driver would love to be donning on the red overalls and driving for that team. It's part of the history and DNA of Formula 1 and modern day motorsport. That being said, what is Ferrari these days is constantly evolving. Carlos Sainz was brought in 2021 to be the dependable backup to Charles Leclerc, not cause any fusses, help bring in the points, but in 2021 Sainz did so much better than anyone expected. In fact, if I recall, I think he actually outscored Charles. They didn't expect Carlos to be that good. And in 2022, Carlos Sainz was really good as well. He got his first win, albeit having to defy the orders of the pit crew, but to be fair, Charles Leclerc was also voicing his disapproval as well. You really get the feeling that Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz get on really, really well, and the last thing that you want to do is be stoking the fire that is Charles Leclerc and potentially getting rid of a teammate that has not been rocking the boat. Yeah, why would you want to annoy Charles Leclerc? Because the last thing you want to do is give him another reason in considering a switch up. In my 2024 prediction video, I didn't really cover Ferrari because I thought, oh, it goes without saying, Carlos Sainz, Charles Leclerc, they're going to be at that team next year, and probably for a quite long time. I just thought, well, why would you replace him? He's perfectly good. There's no one really in the Ferrari Driver Academy at the moment that could really step up to be the replacement for Carlos Sainz. I mean, Mick Schumacher was that prospect, but now he's been dropped from the Ferrari Academy and is now gone over to Mercedes for comfort. But El Nacional, this newspaper publication, has been saying that, oh, Carlos Sainz is a disappointment to Ferrari? He did the job. Bring that team back up from 6th place in the Constructors, somewhere Ferrari should not be. Sainz and Leclerc got Ferrari back up to P3, and even with a very fragile car, he was there to make sure that Ferrari were the best of the rest in the 2nd place. And I know I really shouldn't be taking this article seriously, but it really annoyed me as a Carlos Sainz enjoyer. El Nacional goes on to say that the first 3 races of the year were the worst start to a season since 2009, and the expectations only get worse. Seeing what happened, they seem far from improving. To this, we must add that Ferrari are starting to get tired of Carlos Sainz. The Spanish driver is not performing in the team as expected, and they're getting fed up with the excuses from Madrid. The truth is that for some time now at Ferrari, they are beginning to get upset with Sainz. He has not performed as expected. He is disappointed. They thought he would be a star driver, and he is not showing it. No, again, they brought in Carlos Sainz because he's a dependable driver and helped be a second driver to the star driver, Charles Leclerc. That doesn't make any sense. You don't want 2-star drivers at a top team like that because that's only going to cause friction. In Australia, he was really, really unlucky, and you can tell that he felt that he could have gotten the podium. But wait, the report continues. If he wants to continue, he must begin to show why he was trusted, but at the moment, There is no hint of that. And then the El Nacional thing goes on to say that, oh, Leclerc is the star driver. You can't have two star drivers again. It will just make problems. We saw this with Rosberg and Hamilton. We're seeing this with Verstappen and Perez. And I know that Checo is not on the tier of Verstappen. They're in the fastest car. That's going to cause some issues. I don't know. This is just really, really confusing. And it's just making me think, why would Ferrari get rid of Sainz? It just does not make any sense. Maybe I've just fallen into the trap, you know? Maybe I should have just ignored this article. But it did get me thinking, why would Ferrari, right now, when they're scrabbling to try and find anything to salvage this season, get rid of Carlos Sainz like that? They're seemingly tearing their team apart at a time when they really need to band together. Even McLaren in their doldrums tried to find some kind of resolution together, and they managed to do it in 2019. They managed to actually put on their humility hat and then move forward fearlessly, as their slogan was. And yes, 2023 is not great right now, but, you know, they're still being realistic. Whereas Ferrari, they're just throwing every single excuse, trying to find some rational explanation as to what was going on. Ferrari just need to be grateful that they have a driver pair that like each other. They're not going to be ramming each other off the road. They're in solidarity with one another. And just believe in teamwork! In fact, quite frankly, I might make another video about this, but Ferrari is just turning into what Williams was back in the late 2010s. You know, the whole thing about the traditional culture, cliquiness, all of that stuff. Do you really want Ferrari going down the road that Williams took after 2018 and all of that stuff? And all the stuff that James Vowles is having to change in his tenure as the Williams boss? I don't know, but I feel like Ferrari is just gonna fall apart as we know it. The CEO of the entire company's wanting to actually put in some more oversight and getting rid of its autonomy, not to mention the brain drain that is happening. Oh dear. No, Carlos Sainz is not going anywhere. This article has just annoyed me. Has it annoyed you? This had to be said, so yeah, I think really this just needs to go down into the pits of hell. Just like me, down I go.